Hey, thanks for tuning in to Bustin' Beaks and Chasing Tails. I'm your host, Todd Hogan. Today I'm joined by Nick Scarpino. How you doing, Nick?
I'm wonderful. How about yourself?
Doing all right. Glad you could join us tonight. Cold night
Absolutely.
here in Missouri, but we're going to talk some deer hunting. So I think what we're going to kind of go over is you had a unique year and just kind of like some lessons learned from 2020.
Yeah, it was an interesting year. That's for sure. Bow season definitely could have went better than it did. You always plan on having a stellar season, and bow hunting definitely has a way of setting you back down if you have your hopes a little too high.
Yeah.
Got out quite a bit, and actually took three different shots on three different deer. Missed every single one. First one was my first time ever shooting a crossbow out of a box blind. It was the first time I had taken our oldest son, our 7-year old, and um, ended up shooting at a doe. And instead of hitting the doe, I shot the window frame of the blind. So that was interesting. Um, Lesson learned on that one. And the other two were were in a stand with my compound, and just one I hit a limb and deflected off the limb and shot high over a good buck. And then the last one was I just clean missed a doe. I thought I ranged her. She was kind of trotting, and I did a quick range and had her stop, and I ranged her about 8 yards, 10 yards off, and she she kind of took a step back, and I just shot right under her. So that was my bow season in a nutshell.
That happens.
Luckily, yeah, it does. I mean, it does. It's all part of it. I mean, if you there's not a bow hunter out there that hasn't just clean missed a deer. So, but I tell
No.
you what, three of them in a season, I'm pretty special.
Well, that and didn't you have a surgery right in the middle of the season too? Kind of boogered it
I
up.
did. I did. Yeah. I had a surgery in the end of September, and I was out for, now I didn't pull my bow back for, I don't know, 6, 7 weeks. So that was interesting. But yeah, I got to shooting again rut, right around the first part of November. So we'll just blame it on being a little rusty from my surgery.
Absolutely. It is.
That's for sure. But yeah, it's I definitely did learn some lessons. Not only that I need to practice shooting more, but also just the overall timing. It's I'm a father of two children. They're both school age children. One's 7, one's 4. Also married. Have a full time career as well. And um, the unique thing about me, and it's not really unique. There's a lot of guys in the same position as I am, but I'm lucky enough to have some private property. But that private property is 2.5 hours away.
Yeah.
So what I find myself trying to do is obviously maximize my time in the woods, and it's been kind of a struggle trying to really figure out when I need to take vacation, because as a hunter, obviously we all save our vacation for deer season. But this past couple 3 years, I think it's been telling, and the reason it's been telling is because I've really tried to focus on truly the best days to hunt, um, and not only being in the woods, but with the help of trail cams, and especially this past year, I invested in three different cell cams and just scattered them throughout my property. And it really did. It told the story of when I truly should, take that week, 10 days of vacation and focus on hunting when I'm going to see the most action. And
What
you know,
days did you take off there in November?
so November, I
You kind
focused
of split it up
on.
though, don't you? So
I,
that you can have some gun season too.
I did, yeah, I did, and I think that's another thing that I'm going to shift. Um, I took off basically I took off Veterans Day this year. That was normally the kickoff of my true hardcore season. But yeah, I took off the day before Veterans Day, and I took an entire week off. And I've come to the realization after, looking at trail cam pictures over the past 3 years, and just truly thinking about what I've seen in stand, and I'm too late. The fact of the matter is that I'm focusing on the wrong part of the rut.
You think you're catching the lock down there?
I do. I do. I think I'm truly catching peak rut, and I'm not catching the pre-rut that all of us hope to catch. And I going forward, I think I'm not saying that I am not going to focus on rifle, because I am. I mean, I'm definitely far more passionate about the bow hunting as I am rifle. It just creates more of a challenge. But I call myself a real world hunter. I mean, this the majority of us are. We're not lucky like some of the guys we idolize to make a career out of it. But as a real world hunter, you got to get smart about it. And I truly think that this season, I mean, obviously I'll play the cameras. I'm going to see what the intel tells me, but I think I need to start getting in stand end of October. If you're in this long enough, you're always going to hear people say Halloween's a special day. I always kill or see big bucks on Halloween. And while I've seen a couple, I don't see the majority of them during Halloween, but I truly believe that's the start of, the mature bucks really getting on their feet. I mean, you're gonna see the 1.5, 2.5-year-olds. They're going to be starting to get nosy around mid October, or at least that's what I've seen. But for me, I get about, I don't know, we'll call it a week to week and a half where I could block out the time and I can just get away and hunt. And I think this year I'm gonna do Halloween with the kids, and then after Halloween, I'm really going to focus on that first week in November, because I have had the most daylight activity that week out of the past 3 years, and I'm talking about Halloween to about November 7th. It really starts tapering off around the 9th. And again, with gun season's going to be late for us in Missouri again this year.
Yeah, it's been like a few years here.
Yeah. We've, with the way the calendars fall, and we really can't catch a break because back in the day.
Let me ask you this too, but as a bow hunter, a couple of things. One, I love to bow hunt, but it's humbling, like you said. Two, after being humbled by deer for 2 months, I kind of look forward to having that chance to have the rifle in my hand and pop one at 150 yards. But in the same breath as I say that, in Missouri here where we live, once rifle season hits, a day later, all hell, there's no rhyme or reason. They're running for their lives. So, and you were saying, with just trail camera info, you've been able to put together a little story, so what happens on your farm. And you are, as far as Missouri goes, you're in one of the best parts of the state, the northeast corner, right?
Yeah. I'm our farm is, we'll call it around Hannibal, Missouri. Yeah, I'm roughly 35 miles due south of the Iowa border, so we do have incredible deer up there. I've been lucky enough to harvest some absolute bruisers, and not just bucks, some what I call wodos. You walk up on her and whoa.
I saw the one the other day. That's a brute. That is a brute.
Yep. I've had the opportunity to really put a hurting on some good sized deer. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Once they start hearing the barrage of gunshots, it's a totally different ballgame, completely different. And like I said, I'm lucky enough that I am able to hunt private. And really the guys around me, we don't overcrowd. We don't overpopulate. It's not World War III on opening day. I mean, we really try and focus on what we harvest, and just the type of animal that we're trying to focus on. But it just seems like no matter what we do, come that second day of the season, it's a light switch goes off and it's automatically tougher. And again, that would be just another benefit to
early
hunt and pre-rut,
Well, you can't, again, going back to, you can't put 250,000 people in the woods and the deer not know something's up.
True.
So
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, obviously, no matter where their homing range is, they're going to get bumped. They're going to see something. They're going to hear something, and it's inevitable. It's all part of it. But that being said, opening weekend a rifle and the second weekend a rifle, I mean, once day 2 hits, you're on the downward slope. But what I have seen is that with a dedicated, legitimate active food source, it's a game changer. It's not a game changer so much during the rut. But what I've noticed is that post rut, once these bucks are trying to replenish everything that they lost during the rut, it's incredible, absolutely incredible. I have a 40-acre parcel, and we have 3 different food plots that we have created and really focused on. The biggest one is, we'll call it 3/4 of an acre, maybe an acre if I'm really feeling generous. And gosh, for years, and I'm talking 6 to 7, I tried to dedicate it as a clover plot, and I did, and it flourished. But the problem is that come rut, it just wasn't palatable for them. They weren't hitting it. So I decided to change it up this year, and I did a frigid forage mix plot. It's brassicas, it's radishes, it's turnips. And what I noticed is that even in the warm months, those deer would pile in because it was something green. And once rut hit and once post rut came and it got real cold, those deer just absolutely hammered it. It just hammered it, to the point that I've determined that that's all I'm going to do in that particular plot. My property is going to be a little different this year. We're getting it logged, so it's going to open it up. And the whole reason we're logging it is because we do have mature timber that's choking out the younger stuff. But the main reason is to just create a better habitat. I want my goal is to create far more bedding areas for the deer, so they can focus on my little parcel as opposed to our neighbors.
So
I'm taking.
let me ask you something real quick, not to cut you off, but you mentioned something that so you've got a 40-acre parcel, which isn't 1,000 acres, but it's a nice chunk of land. Are you going to try to have a small section of that you just a complete sanctuary that you just don't go into, or?
I am.
Okay.
I am.
I'm just thinking that, and the reason I ask is that about 15 years ago, the farm I hunt here in Missouri, they logged it, and there is some stuff that I just never go into, and it is some of the wooliest, nastiest crap, and all my big bucks come out of there.
Yeah, and that's basically what we're trying to create. Right now, my game plan going into the season is, well, first of all, the whole reason for me getting the trail cameras is the least amount of intrusion as possible. Obviously we go in there, we do our work early in the season, we put in our food plots, do what we need to do. But really, I try and stay out as much as possible. And when I hunt season opener I normally hunt until mid-October, and then I call it quits. I call it quits until I really want to focus on pre-rut, just to give it time to settle down. Well, in that month or so that I'm hunting, I'm focusing on the edges. but not on the edges. I'm focusing on the boundaries. I'm not I'm not touching the middle of my property, and I'm not touching the southern regions of my property because we're getting in the bedding areas. And I'm just the last thing I want to do is educate them.
Now,
But
do you have cameras set up in there? Or you just
oh
avoid
yeah,
it completely? Okay.
oh yeah, yeah. No, I have cameras set in them, and you can really tell a difference. Because when I had non-cell cameras, it was inevitable. You know, you'd go in
You
and
had to check.
change. Exactly. You'd go in and check them and change batteries and cards. And the next day or two, you'd get some younger bucks and you'd get your does, but the big boys wouldn't show. You know, I mean, they get old for a reason. We know
That's
that.
right.
But what it taught me is that going forward after it's logged, the middle of my property is essentially going to be a sanctuary, and nobody's going to touch it. And when I say nobody, I mean I'm not even going to put cameras in it. I'll put cameras on the edges of that sanctuary area so I can, you know, see, essentially put cameras on their trails so I know where exactly they're coming from and what time for, you know, for hunting purposes. But I'm not going to intrude on that sanctuary in hopes that, like you said, it can get woolly, nasty, provide the the cover, not only the cover, but the browse that they need, and just kind of keep it off limits. So that's the whole game plan. I have a pond in there now that's overrun with cattails, and the goal, I've been talking to some guys up there, and the goal is to fill that pond in and create a whole new pond closer to the middle of the property, just so they can have, you know, the deer can have some water. I mean, we have ag all around us to the north, east, and west. So I mean, essentially, what I envision is my property not only being a bedding area, but a staging area as well. So they can stage to go to the crops and stage to come to the water, because there's really not a whole lot of water around me. So I'm just trying to give them everything they need.
Going back to the food plot you were talking about. So you had
Mhm,
a food plot set up for essentially late season
mhm.
with some brassicas.
Yeah,
Were you able to hunt late season, and did you see anything decent?
I did hunt late season. Yeah.
Or better
Not
yet, were
only
you
did
seeing it
I,
on the cameras?
yes, it was every day. Once late November, once Thanksgiving hit, I mean, there was pictures at the same time every day. Um, my father, he's had some health issues the past few years, and this has been a great year for him. Had knee surgery early in the year, and I was finally able to get him in the blind with my oldest.
Mhm.
And I put him on deer every day, just focusing on that plot, because I mean they were so centered on food and nutrition that was my honey hole. Um, but yeah, no, I had daily action there for 3 to 3.5 weeks.
How
So
big a
it
plot was
truly
it?
did. 3/4 of a acre.
Okay. So they
You
hit
know,
it
I
till they
mean,
mowed it down, right?
exactly, and they did. And last time I was up there, I pulled cameras, and it was the second to January 8th ish, um, and they were gnawing at the grounds just to get to the little specks of the roots and the bulbs that were left. Yeah,
Uh,
it was incredible to see. It really was. But again, it's all schooling. You know, it really tells you what they want when they want it, and
I've
it
heard
taught me a
guys
lot.
say that, and then we didn't get it this year, but if you can get some extreme cold weather late in the year, it's probably the best big deer hunting of the year, because you can put
Yeah,
like you were saying, put a watch on them. They'll be here at 4:20 and they're there
yeah,
every day.
and they
So
are. They were like clockwork. It was incredible.
did you,
But
when you were hunting early in the season and you said you took a break a little bit, did you see an uptick in activity? Like maybe, and I don't know that it was, but did you feel like maybe it was overhunted early and then it kind of picked back up, or was it? I mean, you're not close
um,
enough that you can hunt it daily, so it's not like it's being beaten left and right. But
right. I mean, I would hunt it in 2 to 3 day spurts. Um, and no, I really didn't see that much of a change, because you know we're always focus on your thermals, always focus on your wind, and even when the wind isn't the best, we would focus on hunting in the blind. so we can contain our scent as much as possible. But no, I mean, with that dedicated food source, and we had another food source on the other side of the property, that was the same frigid forage stuff. It didn't take as well, but it didn't really matter in September because they still focused on the greenery. So we saw the same results with the second plot as we did the main plot. But no, I mean, they unfortunately I saw a lot of deer, but they weren't the mature animals that I was, honed in on shooting. A lot of yearlings, a lot of 1.5s, a lot of 2.5s. But I mean, it was daily that when I talk numbers, and this is huge for me in my place. But there would be every day between 2 and 7 deer in the plot at any given time. Now, you got to take into consideration that before I started putting in plots, before I started really focusing on hunting the edges, before I started really getting smart about it, I mean, there would be hunts where I didn't have a deer in range, where I didn't even see deer. But what I can say about this year is that every single set I had, which was, we'll call it 15 sits. I had a deer in range every single sit.
Do you
It says a
sit the
lot.
plot? Yeah, oh yeah. Do you sit the
Yeah.
plots primarily, or do you sit just off the plots in the timber?
So
I know what the
early
easy answer
season,
is.
yeah.
Easy answer is I
Yeah.
like to sit the plot because I'm going to see deer.
Yep. Yep. And that's what I focused on in September and October. But obviously, once I got into November, I started creeping in closer to the bedding areas and their travel routes. And I really made it a point to sit those. And even at that, I still had deer in range every sit. I have it's off my logging road right now, but it's a huge travel corridor. They come from myself, the bedding areas we have on us, and then they come from my main neighbor to the south of me in 2 different trails. And I mean, every sit I had deer on each trail, on each 3 heavily traveled corridor.
Mhm.
And it was just, it really shows you and educates on just doing it smart. It's years I wouldn't play the win. You'd sit there and think, why am I not seeing deer?
There you
Well,
go.
you start
When
figuring it out.
when you put those plots in, did you design them? Were you smart enough at the time to design them to think this is what I'm setting up, or was it like a kill plot? Like I know if I set up on this wind here, or was it one of those things where you put the plot in and then just kind of worked your way through it to like, well, now that I see it, I need to be here and here.
So 2 of the plots were kill plots. Well, at least we tried to design them as kill plots. And the third plot, the main plot, we had a large area that I could clear out and did. But it ended up, that ended up being our largest kill plot per se, because we completely, once we started figuring out where the deer were coming from, we completely redesigned everything. And we built the main blind tucked in the woods, away a little bit, and just kind of not in direct range of them. Basically everything you see on TV, the smart guys doing. I just tried to mimic them. But the other 2, it was, they're smaller plots, half-acre plots, and we just kind of put them where we could.
Yeah.
And then just tried to set up as best as we possibly could for wins. Because with my place, it's primarily a north wind. The peak time we're hunting, and you just try and focus on the best areas to set up in north winds.
What about your access routes in and out? I mean, did you think about that when you were setting them up, or was it just
Yeah.
this is where I can put it, and I've got to go with this?
Yeah, no, yeah, you do. I don't really focus on access too primarily much on my field edges, because I mean, I'm just basically going through the fields the majority of the time when we have crops up. But what I truly focused on as access points is my later year stands, my rut stands. But yeah, you focus on following the ditches, you know, get
Good
into a
call.
creek bed, get into a ravine. You know, you never, ever, ever want to touch high ground because, especially as the leaf starts falling, I mean, you're going to be, what's the word I'm looking for? You're going to be skyline. You know,
Yeah.
they're going to be able to pick you out no matter where they're at, because they're obviously focused on that horizon. So yeah, we really try and focus on staying as low as possible. And when I was younger, one of my biggest things was, you know, I'd never hunt till pitch dark. Um, I'd always come out about 5 minutes before I really should have. But the older I've gotten, you know, not only focusing on staying low, but staying dark,
Yeah.
and really trying not to use a headlamp as much as possible because, you know, no matter what color they throw out there and state is night vision, they still see it. You know, they
Yeah.
still see it. It's still foreign. So I'm a firm believer in, you know, using as much natural light as possible and saving the artificial for when you absolutely need it.
Yeah. Trying to get in and out of a stand or something, but once you get
Yep.
down and you know your way out, you get
Yep.
to shut them all down. Yeah, it's
Exactly.
kind of a thing that the farm I hunt here around home, it's not I don't own it. I have access to it and have for years, but um my food plot is excellent, but my access is terrible in that
Yeah.
I'll have to expose myself at some point. So I like you were saying, I don't try not to touch it
Mhm.
until damn near Halloween because I'm
Yeah.
scared to death. I don't want to educate them. And the few times, you know, you get out and you think, well, if I can slip out of here quiet, well, there's there's eyes in the woods and there's noses there, and there just so happens that the plot I'm on, they can come from anywhere. So who knows what I'm
Yeah.
educating and what. But I was curious, you know, you were telling me about that. I know you didn't get to hunt public land this year, but in the future, are you thinking about that? I know that's kind of the I would love to hunt public land, but I don't have the patience anymore.
I am. And I haven't hunted much public land in the past, but I am going to focus on hunting it in the future. And there's a couple of reasons why. Um, Biggest reason is I don't want to completely hammer and um, overuse the property that I currently hunt. You know, I mean, let's face it. The more you go in, the more you're educating them. I mean, there's a reason they say the best time to hunt your stand is the first time you hunt it.
First time.
You know, I mean, it's all about repetition, and they're going to pick up on it. That's one reason. I just don't want to completely overutilize the access I have, but I also want to hunt closer. You know, it's a 2.5 hour drive to my farm, and with being as busy as we are, it's I could be able to pick up on a dime and go hunt. Well, I can't do that. So there's some properties that are within a 30 to 45 minute drive from my home that I'd really like to focus on this season, and it's just to give me more access to hunting, give me more time in the woods.
Yeah.
It's My biggest issue is just finding the time to scout, and you know I'm not going to scout. I'm not going to scout come July, August, September. That's not the time. Really, the time to scout is now. You
Yeah.
know, especially,
Right now.
um, yeah,
With snow on.
especially with the snow on the ground. You know, I mean, there's no better way to find your trails than right now. So I really need to start focusing on scouting this next couple weeks into the next month and a half, just to really pinpoint a what I can get to the easiest.
Yeah.
B, I want to do some research online to figure out just how many guys are talking about these properties. You know, because that's going to give me an idea of how many guys are hunting these properties. You know, you hear the war stories all the time of you walk into a stand on public land and uh, daylight comes and first light comes and all you see is guys around you. Well, I don't want to do that.
Sure.
But you just got to put in the work to see how many people are talking about these properties, because the less you see it in print, the less you see it online, the better chance you're going to have is to finding a good spot and taking a deer. So,
Are you
so
a good
yeah,
mobile hunter?
pardon me.
Are you a good mobile hunter?
No, no, I'm not. I'm not. And that I can fully admit that. I've been known to tell myself, you know what, you need to get down, you need to go to spot B or spot C. But I'll be honest, when I'm up there and I'm set up, inevitably, if I start getting down mid hunt to go to a different spot, I'm going to get busted. At
Yeah.
least that's what I think. I should be a better mobile hunter. You hear about these guys who stalk and still hunt. You got to give it to them, because my big clumsy butt, no matter where I go, I'm hitting tree branches. I'm cracking 35 branches with one step. I'm making the most noise possible. So you got to give it to guys who do that, because I'm just not that savvy.
Yeah. No. I'll I'll be honest with you. I'm 48 years old, and once my fat ass is in the tree, I'm like, well, this is
Yeah.
where we're sitting.
Yep. Exactly. Okay. Well, you got up. We're done huffing and puffing. I'm going to give myself 15 minutes for my heartbeat to come to rest,
Yeah.
and I'm good.
Put my finger in the air and say, "Oh crap, wind switched. Well, today's a wash. Guess I'll
Yep.
play on my phone."
Exactly. Yeah, I do need to get better at adapting midday and becoming more mobile, because it has come to bite me in the ass, as it has all of us. But
Oh yeah, it's just
I got a lot
easier.
of. It
It's
is.
just easier. It's
Yeah,
just, and that's why the good ones are good, because they put in the extra. And a lot of
absolutely.
times I'm just like,
Yep.
there's tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, tomorrow we'll hunt, the opposite side of the
Yeah.
property. But yeah, no, I'll get there one day, hopefully.
Well, those days are behind me. I know the farm I hunt in Illinois, with my partner that helps me on this, the co-host. When we started hunting over there 20 years ago, um, it was 20 years ago this year, so we would have been 27, 28 years old, 21 years ago now.
Yeah.
He told us a couple years ago, he's like, when you guys first started coming up here, and I'd tell you, if you put your stands on your back and you take off 3/4 of a mile this way across that chiseled field, I guarantee you'll see a 150. And he goes, you guys would take off in a heartbeat. And he goes, now I catch you guys, you're within about 100 yards of the road a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, and it gets harder. It does. It does get tougher. You go out for an all day sit now, and when we were younger, like you said, in your 20s, you'd go out for an all day sit if you had the patience, and you'd be fine.
Yeah.
But now it's your knees start hurting, your ankles start getting to you, your back starts, getting a
There's the
crick in it, and it's tougher.
And the other thing is, when your back starts hurting you or anything else, I can't sit still. I mean, you
Yep,
defeat the purpose.
yep, yeah. It takes a lot of determination. Obviously, it takes patience, but it does sheer determination, because they're tough. Getting in that stand at 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, and sitting till dark, till 5:30 at night. It's tough. Um, it's no matter how many times you get up and you get your blood flowing. I mean, it's your body just doesn't react the same as when you were
No,
younger, and it starts to take its toll, and it
I,
really does alter your hunting and your
and
overall approach.
I don't know about you, but so I generally take 2 weeks. Uh, anywhere from I take 2 full weeks at work, and it usually works out to
Yeah.
around 16 days.
Hmm.
Um, but each day that passes, it's a little harder to get up.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, well, I could just sleep in. It'd be a lot easier. I've
Yep.
always had more success in the evenings anyway.
Yeah. And also, I mean, tell the truth. At the end of those 2 weeks, you are wore out.
Oh, this is
Yeah.
my absolute passion. This is the one thing that, except for my children and my wife, this is
Yeah.
the one thing that is the most important to me.
Yes.
And when I get home, I couldn't, I'm like, I always feel guilty, like, well, you need to go hunt, but I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't want to go hunt. There's a stretch there right around Halloween or around Thanksgiving where I'm like, thank God I'm sleeping
Yeah.
in and
Yep.
uh
I mean, the people who don't hunt, who don't understand, they because inevitably when you come home from a hunt, you're tired. You're not only physically but mentally as well.
yeah,
Um, and you get the people who are like, well, I don't understand. How can you be tired just from sitting in the tree all day? Like, you don't get it. You clearly don't. You don't get what you're putting your body through. Um, you know, your body's made to move, and you are literally sitting there staying stagnant for hours on end. Not only that, but most of us, unless we have our phones in our hand, when you're sitting in your stand, you're dialed in. You're locked in that entire time. I mean, you're solely focused on hearing or seeing your game that you're chasing.
yeah,
People don't understand how much that mentally takes out of you. But I definitely find, like, if I take 2 weeks, like you said, I'll hunt 12 days and I'll come home on day 13 just so I can rest up.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, you need that day or two just to kind of get back and sleep it off, because you come back on day 14 and go back to work that next day, you're going to be useless.
yeah.
I mean, because you're wiped out.
I know this year I took 2 weeks off and like on day 4 I killed a pretty good buck. And
Mhm.
so
Yes, you did.
Missouri's rifle season wasn't in yet. Um, Shotgun season in Illinois wasn't in yet. And I thought rather than waste this time and just sit around and maybe go sit down at the farm and because I was tagged out in Illinois,
Yeah.
I went back to work for 4 days. And I thought, well,
Yeah.
we'll just roll the dice with rifle season and shotgun season. But
And save my time for better days.
yeah, I literally, yeah.
Yeah,
Now I've got a week to spend on turkey season.
exactly. Yep. Yeah. God, that's that's going to be here before we know it.
Soon, soon.
Yeah.
Let me ask you a couple quick things. We'll wrap this up. I appreciate you taking time. I know your wife's probably upstairs trying to get the boys ready for bed, but
Eh.
um, what what would be your two biggest goals coming up for this upcoming season? What you learned last season, and I kind of put you on the spot here, but what do you think the two
Ooh.
things you really need to focus on this upcoming year?
Oh wow, you really are putting me on the spot. Um, my first would be just creating peak food plots.
Okay.
Um, I really I succeeded in one of three. Um,
Did the drought
what I
hurt
will
you? Because it got dry.
It did. It did hurt me, but honestly, what hurt me is my pH levels.
Okay.
This is the first year, and like I said, I've been doing these plots for 6, 7 years. This is the first year that I did soil samples, and they paid dividends. I will get smarter with doing soil tests every year, um,
Was your pH
and
high or low?
it was extremely low.
Low.
Yeah, extremely low. So that's goal number one, is just doing my food plots right, being smart about it, doing soil samples every year until I get, a constant pH level where it needs to be. In goal two is, like I said, just what I've learned the past few years is being smart about when I hunt. Um, I feel that the days I've been focusing on years past, I'm really just giving time away because I'm not maximizing my time in the woods, and that would be my ultimate goal, is to um, pinpoint the dates that I need to be in stand and maximize that daytime activity. Those are my two biggest goals, just to get smarter with my food and just smarter as an overall hunter and when to hunt.
Okay. Yeah, that's good
Yeah,
ones. I like that.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I think you've got the right plan there. I think you and I have talked about it offline, but I think you're going to see more action that first week of November. I
yep.
truly, deep in my heart, believe that if you've got the patience and you can wait it out, you'll probably catch the bigger buck, maybe right at the end, because he's kind of the one that's he's been through the marathon before, and I've said it before, and it's awful to say, but he's looking for that first piece of ass and that last piece of ass, where the other one's kind of
Yep.
it's a sprint and they're gassed, they're done.
Yeah.
But I really think probably got the right idea there. So
I hope. I
we'll
hope.
well, if it's cool with you, maybe after turkey season we'll catch up and see what
I
happened
like
there,
that.
and
Yeah.
maybe talk about some of your summer plans and what you've got going on, and if you've done any scouting on that public land, like you were saying, and kind of what your plans are there.
Yeah, I like that. I'd be happy to.
I really appreciate you being on here, Nick. Like I said, I know you're a busy guy, and your wife's upstairs probably pulling her hair out.
She'll be okay.
All right, Nick. Thank you. I appreciate it, man.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me.
All right, take care.
All right.